Advance and be recognized, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sitrep podcast, your forward operations base for all things military and historical wargaming. I am your host, Risky Jim, and today we're getting back to our original charter, so to speak, that is modern era wargaming. Our subject today, some people might find a little touchy. I respect it if you feel that way. If this isn't your thing, then just please click on some of our other content and check out some of our other videos. But quite frankly, it's been 3 years since we've approached this topic seriously, and it's high time that we stop pretending like it's not happening. Today's war game takes place in the opening weeks of the Ukraine war, officially opening on the 24th of February, 2022. Our rule set is a modern update of Avalon Hill's Panzer Leader with a blend of more modern variants like Arab-Israeli Wars and Tactical Combat Middle East by Toshash Miniatures. Of course, I had to create the map myself for this scenario, as well as research and create all the unit counters. Specifically, our game takes place among the engagements at Makariv, a suburb of Kyiv about 50 kilometers west of the capital. To brutally oversimplify this situation, at the outset of this Russian invasion, lead elements of the 35th Combined Arms Army came down out of Belarus through the Chernobyl-Ivankiv corridor. Their mission was to storm Kyiv by the second or third day of operations, assisted by advanced airborne drops of the 31st and 11th Guards Airborne Brigades at Hostomel Airport. Well, we all saw the footage. This so-called Russian blitzkrieg ran into a tower of problems, especially once the ground elements started grinding through suburbs like Hostomel Town, Bucha, and Irpin. With the effort to kick down Kyiv's front door thus frustrated, Russian commanders started to simultaneously mount operations to flank the capital from the west, or possibly bypass it completely in a grand encircling maneuver. For this, the Russians into the suburb of Makariv, and on 27 February 2022, 37th Guards Motor Rifle Brigade got the order to take the town. They were almost immediately counterattacked by the Ukrainian 14th Mechanized Brigade, starting a brutal series of assault and counter-assaults in the town that would last until the middle of March. Our game attempts to recreate one of these assaults in early March, where Russian forces are attempting to bash their way back into Makariv. Now, please bear in mind this is only the third week of the war, so you're going to see some things like, say, Ukrainian forces have plenty of both attack and surveillance drones, but drones haven't completely taken over the battle space like we see in more recent battles. Also, we won't really see any of the big NATO weapon systems, just javelins and NLAWs that the Ukrainians had before the war started. It's T-64s versus T-72, folks, BMPs versus BTRs, with the Russians enjoying a crushing superiority in armor and artillery support. Both sides are going to have a little bit of air power to play with, since historically neither side could establish clear air supremacy over the battlefield. But basically it's going to come down to Russian firepower versus Ukrainian advantages in defensive position and ambush tactics. We have longtime community member Rasmus playing the Ukrainians with our good friend Damon playing the Russians. So how about we head on over to the table and we see if some very recent history repeats itself. Okay, so here is our map for today's game. We're looking at 150 meter hexes. Every unit in this game is either a platoon, section, or battery, so there's probably upwards of 2,000 men on the table altogether. And both players have set up their forces. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Quick note, we obviously realize this is a very current and serious topic, so there's not going to be any wisecracking jokes or anything like that in today's episode. We're going to handle this one a little bit more seriously than usual. We have Rasmus, who is playing the Ukrainians. Rasmus, how you doing today?
Oh, not too bad. And hey, it even got the Danish flag on the head.
Hey, there you go. Technically, that is the insignia for that unit. And playing the dastardly Russians, we have our friend Damon from the UK. Damon, how you doing?
I'm alright, mate. Thank you. Are you?
Pretty good. We're going to find out. So, yeah, actually, I am not in today's game. I'm not playing. I'm just running the game and facilitating it. Although Damon, perhaps foolishly, has hired me to roll his dice for him. So we will see how that works out. But the Ukrainians have set up in defense. That is how Rasmus wanted to deploy his rather limited forces. Meanwhile, Damon, with the 37th Circle Guards Rifle Brigade, or elements thereof, he has set up in the classic column. I mean, how much like the war is this already looking? We see this giant Russian armored column just all stacked up on this woodland highway in practically single file. We're going to see how that turns out. But yeah, we're ready to start. So we're all set up. We've completed the setup phase. So actually first, Mr. Damon, did you want to call in any artillery?
I've got no real sights of anything yet, have I?
Not really. You're not close enough to use any of the TCME spotting rules. So actually no. The only things you can see are some of the aircraft. Well, any smoke screens from your D-30 howitzers?
That might be useful. Do I call them now, or do I just write them down?
You just write them down, and they will appear at the beginning of next turn. All right, so artillery is called in. He's going to write down a hex number, and next turn, the artillery actually impacts. You have to call in your artillery a turn in advance. Okay, we're going to go ahead and skip direct fire, because, again, I don't think you have anything spotted. Unless if your Strela wants to just close its location and take a poke at one of these hinds.
Yeah, why not?
This guy is down like below the lip. You can't really see him, but he is. Yeah, he's technically visible.
Is that a shoot and scoot capable vehicle?
Yes, anything with a turret, which any anti-aircraft vehicle has to have the split move and fire rule.
Yeah, why not? We'll do it.
All right, cool. So we have our first shot of the game. We have a missile off the rail, Fox 2, from a Russian that is an SA-13 off of this Strela 10. All right, so he is well within range. It is a attack factor of 24 versus 16. It is 1-to-1 odds. Oh, am I rolling your dice for you still?
Yes, please, mate.
All right, I apologize in advance if I shoot down your helicopter, Rasmus, but here we go. 1-to-1 odds. I need a 1 to kill him. A 5. He is only dispersed. So one helicopter pretty much. What he's doing is he's dropping flares and he's doing evasive. He's safe, he doesn't get destroyed, but he will be dispersed until Rasmus can rally him. And that's going to complete direct fire, and then we go to the first movement.
So the tanks are going to follow the road towards that like industrial kind of area.
Yeah, that's like a big farming complex on the satellite map, it looks like.
Yep.
Alright, so we'll take the first group of tanks. I mean, realistically, we're moving these one at a time, but just to make the game go a little quicker. One, because, well, you know what? We'll just pretend there's a hex out here. 1, 2, 3. Alright, that's 3 movement points so far. This road does have dense trees along both sides, according to the satellite image. So that's 3 so far. He doesn't have line of sight, because you're in a tree hex.
We will drop into the farm area and take cover in there.
Cool. So that's only 3.5 movement points. He did that without coming out of second gear. Is that as far as they're going?
Yep, for now.
Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and complete Damon's movement because there's quite a few units to get through, and then we'll come back with an update.
Way too many units.
Well, I made this one smaller than usual for me anyway. Alright guys, we'll go ahead and finish up the movement, and then we'll come back with an update on how the game is going. Alright, Russian turn 1 is now complete. Here comes that almost sadly historical massive column down here. The front column did disperse a little bit and dismounted some BMPs, but then Rasmus, what happened here? It looks like you spotted the BMPs with one of your attack drones.
Yep, so he slid up for further down the road.
Yeah, so he made the roll to spot the BMP, but failed the roll to spot the motor rifle. It's a 1 to a 3 to spot an infantry unit. It's a 1 through a 4 to spot a vehicle unit. So you get to roll twice. Ergo, the more crap you pile into one hex, the easier you are to spot. Now, nobody can attack him yet. Like, these guys can't see him or anything like that, but we do have eyes on these guys here. We also have eyes on these little guys having a fishing party down by the riverbank. We have some conscript infantry that has decided to break out the fishing poles, so to speak. But again, this drone can see him, this HIP can see him. That 16th Army Aviation Regiment was the historical unit. Yes, they did actually have armed or weaponized HIPs as opposed to the more expected Hind gunships. And yeah, Damon's getting a little aggressive down here. He has taken one objective hex, so there we go. The Russians do have some points on the board already. We have conscript infantry about to do what conscript infantry does best, die. Because they're lining up in front of some pretty tough Ukrainian units, but as you can see, they definitely have the advantage in numbers.
Russians go fast down road.
Yeah, well, if they have fuel. Which,
yeah, till the fuel runs out.
In this game they do.
And then they start getting hungry.
Yeah, they're threatening this objective hex, so yeah, that's going to be 2. And again, he only has to hold 3 at the end of the game. Anything so far, Rasmus, or are we ready to just go to your indirect?
Yeah, I think we're just about ready to.
Cool. Now you don't have any off-board artillery, but you do have some on-board 120s. All right, and then you just write down that hex, and that will come in next turn. So with that resolved, we then go to direct fire, which.
Oh yeah.
All right, we have anti-tank missiles. Yeah, you've definitely got them in range. And you've got 2 4-tank sections of T-72s. Alright, so it's 40, unless you're throwing anything else against it.
That was what I was looking at.
Helicopters can move half before they attack. But if they move more than a quarter, they trigger opportunity fire from that Strela.
Move it up to the other hip and we'll join that in.
Alright, so he only moves 2 hexes, he therefore does not trigger opportunity fire per Panzer Leader rules. And this is going to be that hip section's one and only, hence the G1, one and only AT-5 strike. But let's see what happens. So we've got basically 2 40s then. That's going to be this anti-tank guided weapon reload out of here. And then he's got 1 left after this. This is going to be the hips only G-class. He still has rocket pods after this. But that's going to be 2 40s, become 80 points. Now it's 4 to 1. I'm assuming you're only engaging 1?
Yep.
Alright, add 1 to the die roll. He is
4 becomes a 5.
4 becomes a 5 on 4 to 1. He barely survived that. A 3 would have killed him. 3 becomes a 4 on 4 to 1, that kills him. But here we have a 4 becomes a 5, he barely survived. Although he is pinned down. And again, Russian morale is a C. He's going to have a tough time rallying from that. Okay, quick note from future editor Risky Jim. In the recording of this game, we had some pretty serious audio issues on some segments. So I'm going to remove those segments. I won't inflict those on our audience, and I will just re-record really quickly the general high points of what happened during that segment. So we're at the beginning of Russian turn 2, and the first thing that Damon does is resolve his previous turn's artillery. What he was trying to do was call in a smoke mission here on this objective hex to sort of help clear, or I should say screen, his advance upon that objective. The problem is, while the mission was legal when his column was up here, and obviously his spawning units had a clear line of sight, he then moved this column here as we saw in the previous segment, and now nobody can see the intended target hex because technically there is a tree hex between his spawning units, or what would be his spawning units, and the intended target. So what that winds up doing is scattering the mission. There's no one there available to call in correction rounds. He rolls badly on the scatter roll, and pretty much smoke lands in all 7 of these hexes, and we wind up with a tactically insignificant smoke shell concentration. So long story short, take your first shot, nothing happens there. There was then some direct fire where this undispersed T-72 section, or platoon if you will, tried to engage these Stugna anti-tank guided weapons here. His 32 attack, because he's engaging soft targets and he doesn't have dual class ammunition, has to reduce to a 16 per the normal A-class rules in Panzer Leader. He winds up only dispersing this section and not actually taking it out, especially since he's in an IP, which means he has to add 2 to his die roll, and he's also in light buildings, which means he has to add 1 to his die roll. Yes, per the Arab Israeli War rules, you are allowed to put improved positions in urban hexes. So, yeah, long story short, take your second shot. That's going to be a +3 to his D6 attack roll. That's a penalty, by the way. And, yeah, obviously he doesn't get any killing shots there. Also, shooting infantry with tanks is always a dicey proposition. There was a little bit of small arms fire here between this heavy weapons section and this mechanized infantry. That happened earlier, but again, with bad die rolling. There has been a lot of really, really bad die rolling so far. But, yeah, nothing much happened here. But, yeah, that pretty much wraps up the Russian fire phase, and now we're moving on to Russian movement. But now we're into the Ukrainian turn, and Rasmus has called in his turn 3 artillery, and then we resolved the artillery he called in last turn. And he has called it on this hex. His spotting unit, which was that drone, still has line of sight on the target, so well done there. And it will now land right where it's supposed to. So it is 15 points on a mortar strike, and it affects everything in the hex individually. So first, it's going to be a 2-to-1 attack on the motor rifle platoon. Add 1 to the die roll for the woods.
Come on.
1 becomes a 2. He is smoked. That is first blood drawn, and that is the first unit actually killed on the table. Now the 15 becomes a 7. Versus, because it divides versus armor targets. 7 versus 6, 1-to-1 versus the BMP. Again, add 1 to the die roll.
That's 7.
Modified 7, so that is literally no effect. Alright, and that is 1 wrecked Russian unit so far. Right there on the highway, like we kept seeing in the footage. Alright, so that concludes indirect artillery. Then we go to direct fire. So do we have a few targets available.
Yeah, and the most interesting right now is to fire the second lot into the tin.
Alright, cool. So we're going to fire this second and last for this particular unit. AT-5 shot into the dispersed units of tanks. Alright, cool. It is 40-20. It is 2-to-1. Add 1 to the die roll, subtract 1 for being dispersed, and a double D kills the unit. Alright, this Hind, it can be used for spotting purposes, but he is now bingo ordnance. He doesn't even have machine guns. That's a transport helicopter that they emergency welded some pylons on the side, almost via hand. But we now have smoked our first platoon of Russian tanks. We don't have to have the spotting unit there. Everyone sees the burning column.
Yeah, we'll shoot at one of the conscript units.
Okay, but then the mech infantry can't move after that.
You can't move after that, yeah.
Okay. So, either one that you want to engage, they all have the same defense factor. Do you want to target one of the heavy weapons? The heavy weapons?
We'll do the heavy weapon team in that case, yeah.
Alright, cool. Again, 1-2, you have to add 1 to the die roll. You literally need a 1.
I'll see.
Okay, the exact opposite of the 1. We have, but if we're done with shooting, we can't forget to try to rally that second hit.
Come on.
Alright, cool. This time he rallies. And that was his attack, so he can't shoot at anybody, but he can still move up to half.
Yeah, so we'll start by moving him 1 south, 1 southwest.
That unit, by the way, everybody, is inverted because he's bingo ordnance, not because he's dispersed. Okay, we're now beginning turn 3. So far, things are starting to go a little bit against the Ukrainians. One of their attack drones was actually trying to outflank the Russians and was shot down by massed autocannon fire from 3 platoons, so 12 BTR-80s just unloaded on him, and somebody got lucky and actually knocked him down there. But the other one is now hiding up here right over these woods, behind these woods, and does have the Russian commander spotted. So we'll see what happens there. Cool, but in any event, we are now onto the Russian artillery phase. He dropped his D-30 battery and his Grads, his BM-21 Grads, on that building hex and improved position with the admittedly empty anti-tank guided weapons. So it's 28 points for the Grad and 18 points for the D-30. That is 46. Boy, it affects everything in the hex equally. 46 versus 6 is just short of 8-1. It's 7-1 odds, but you still have to add 3 to the roll. That's the highest column in the game. He definitely wanted those guys destroyed. But he does have to add 3 to the roll. So do you want to roll this, Damon, or you want me to roll it?
No, you can roll it, mate, on camera.
Oh, alright, now it's not my fault if I...
No. It's all good.
The 6, he actually does survive it. That 6 becomes a 9. Those guys are still there. Holy crap. So he's called in his next turn's artillery. We then go to your direct fire.
So tank and infantry will all fire south into the spotted infantry.
Alright, so I was half expecting a close assault there, but no worries.
Can I cat attack them from there?
Yes, because the movement rate is 2. The tank would fire, maybe pin somebody down, maybe not. It's fire and maneuver. You got your fire element here, and you got your maneuver element there.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that. Tank will fire, and then infantry will fix bayonets.
Alright. So, here we go with, it's conscript, man. That's what you do. You throw them at the enemy. So, T-72 fires, stays at 30.
Can the weapons section will fire as well?
Yeah, however you want to split it up. So, this, again, we're reading this as an A-star for people in the audience. So, that stays at 10. However, this is still an A. So, the 32 divides into 16. 10 plus 16, 26 points versus 7. That's 3 to 1. You have to add 1 to the die roll.
Carry on, mate.
Oh my god, you're letting me roll your dice again. I'm changing dice real fast. Another 6, dude. Jesus. Hey, at least we're getting a historical result. Alright, they are not worried about your covering fire. Does the cat attack still go in? Because technically that's a separate phase of the turn. You can call it off if you want.
No. What the hell?
Alright, now
that's true.
Off they go. And because you are not pinned down, you can use opportunity fire if you want.
Oh, yeah.
8 versus, I'm assuming 6. Unless you want to try and pin them both down.
How about just go for 1?
Alright, it's 1-to-1 odds. No modifiers.
I won.
Killed him. Boom. Now, 6 versus 9 is 1-to-2. Subtract 2 from the die roll. Damon, you gotta stop letting me roll your dice. I've rolled 2 6s for you in a row.
It's a 6.
Oh my god, that's 3 6s in a row. Alright, so the close assault goes in, but it fails.
Yeah.
Alright, so
That's the Russians the first week.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I would kind of feel bad for Damon, but at the same time, this is kind of the historical thing we're watching during those first few very, very touch-and-go weeks. Despite disappointing results over to the east, they're going to try something here to the west. So they are moving forward with a lot more of their units, and it looks like we have 1, 2, at least 3 motor rifle platoons. A full company is now assaulting these mechanized infantry in empty trucks. They're backed up by tanks, and backed up by more tanks, and backed up by BMPs, but they had to move to get there, so they can't provide fire support this turn. Next turn, they will be able to give some really awesome point-blank fire, and then a lot more goes in, and we'll see what happens. But for now, yeah, we have 1 mechanized infantry platoon, Rasmus, that can take opportunity fire as these attacks come in.
And they will shoot straight north.
Okay, so he's going to engage this one with his opportunity fire. Cool. A 1 becomes a 2 because of light buildings. That does disperse him, which means he will not get a chance to participate in the close assault. Alright, now it's just these 2. 14 versus technically 9, because you have to account for the trucks. It's 1-to-1. Subtract 1 from the die roll, Mr. Damon.
Do you know what I'm really good at?
Is it not the 4th 6 in a row?
Yep.
Oh my god. 4 6s in a row, audience. Okay, everybody, we're now in Ukrainian turn 3. Mortars have landed up here, and they couldn't kill anybody because they're in concrete buildings. They're in that big industrial park northeast of the town. But they did pin down conscript infantry and heavy weapons. Meanwhile, down here, we now go into direct fire. These tanks have maneuvered down here. Again, we're considering these T-64s as A-stars, so they do not have while firing against soft targets. That 30 stays at a 30 versus 6, 5-to-1 against 1. So go ahead and roll, Mr. Rasmus.
A2.
2, that does smoke. It is another unit smoked. Alright, I told you we'd be back if anything cool happened. Bayraktar drone kind of inched around here, moving not nearly enough to trigger opportunity fire, and launch his 1 missile strike against this truck, but technically that truck is a non-armored target, so he has to divide. 18 becomes a 9, that's 4-to-1, add 1 to the die roll for woods. And then he rolled a 6. So again, lucky Russian commander there. What'd you say, Damon, about where the missile went?
Straight through the canvas.
Yeah, the back of the truck, and pretty much ripped the back of the truck off, but the commander is still there. However, Damon then failed his overall morale check. Again, his morale is C. So until he rallies that headquarters unit, oh, by the way, that headquarters unit automatically unloads. So until he can rally the headquarters unit, he is morale D, because right now he doesn't have a overall force commander. So his rally checks are about to get damn near impossible. He has to roll a 2 or less on a D6 to rally anything right now. Again, like we saw in the footage, the Russians, their command and control systems sort of really come apart once they came under fire from these missiles and drones. It's literally what's happening right now on our table. This is, the Russians don't so much get destroyed as they get disorganized and stopped, is what we're going to see as more and more Russian units get dispersed. But any other movement, Mr. Rasmus?
Yeah, the mechanized infantry under the block.
All right.
They'll move down to the improved position.
Oh, I thought
along
they were
with
going
the BP.
I thought they were going to help their comrades here. Yeah, that's a nice little redoubt position there. They don't have the best line of sight, but at the same time, neither do the Russians. Then again, it looks like Damien might be building up for a second column to attack that position. We'll see how that goes.
Either something will come in and we'll fight about it, or I got a soccer field.
There you go. That's right. That's right in the soccer field, which is on the satellite camera. I don't know if it's a soccer field. It's a stadium. It
Probably
looks like a soccer field, but I figure it's Europe, and I mean, what else do you guys play over there, Damon, besides football? Excuse me. Do you get offended if I don't call it football?
No.
I've met
sports
people
ball is sports ball, mate.
They get, excuse me, American, it's actually called football. We don't all play your stupid pigskin game. Dude, dial it down about a notch or 10.
If you start on the cricket, though, then there's a problem.
Oh, okay. All right. I will not...
No, I don't care about sports ball at all. Any of them. Round balls, funny shaped balls.
If you start picking on
balls
cricket,
to me.
now you're also in a fight with India, and you definitely don't want to start there because there's just way too many of them. Okay, we are now beginning Russian turn 4, coming up on halfway through the game. Spoiler alert, that Su-34 fullback at Damon's option enters the table this turn. But for now, we are resolving his artillery. Only the D-30 122mm howitzers, because those Grads are reloading. 18 points versus 7, 2 to 1, add 1 to the die roll.
4 becomes a 5.
He is dispersed. 18 versus 2, that is 9 to 1, add 1 to the die roll.
1.
Oh, there we go. Hey, we killed something. An empty Ukrainian truck section. And then 9 versus 6, 1 to 1, subtract, add 1 to the die roll.
4 becomes 5.
That is no effect. We now go to air phase, if you want to. Did you want to bring that fullback on the table?
The infantry by the river can see the tank, can't they? That's shooting at them.
Yep.
So that's a priority target.
The Su-34 fullback carries 1 anti-tank missile strike and 2 bomb strikes. So the missile strike can hit from 16 hexes away, but honestly, I think no matter what, you're going to be subject to this weapon right here.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a range of what, 20, is it?
Yep.
Yeah. No, I can't put myself out of range of ground fire of the AA. Yeah, we'll go from there.
All right, cool. So I'm assuming we have opportunity fire from Manpads here. All right, Manpads fires. Psh, off it goes. 30 points versus 24. 1 to 1 odds.
Okay.
A 6. The missile missed, and the strike still gets to come in. So that is going to be a 40 point versus 20. It is 2 to 1 odds.
4.
And he is dispersed.
The active armor don't help against that.
Actually, it does, but he's still dispersed. Good point. Yeah, with that star, he does have armor designed to defeat G-class weapons. Yeah, again, this was the kind of feel I was going for. Ukrainians are badly outnumbered, but they are annoyingly tough to kill, as history has borne out. There's not many of them, and they don't always have the best tools, but...
Were they the fully upgraded 64s they had, or just the standard ones?
They are the BVs, so I know they're definitely upgraded. Good luck.
Is it the op lot?
No,
they're
the D64
super duper
Oplots. The best ones they ever had, the T-84 O-plots. Believe it or not, 14th Mechanized Brigade has been photographed with exactly one of them. So again, with every platoon here being, or with every counter here being a 4-tank platoon, I didn't want to include it. The really good ones, the T-84 O-plot-M's, all 10 of them, of course, are serving in the Royal Thai Army, because who needs them in Ukraine right now?
They sold them off, didn't they?
Yeah, that's the pre-Zelensky days. And the less I say about that, the better.
So the infantry, the assault that's lining up on the...
this direction, over here to the west? Oh,
yep.
Lord. Yeah, there's quite a few. Okay, 32 becomes 16, because, again, no star after the A. Well, it goes back to 32 because you got 2 of them. That's 64. And 8, that does not divide because it does have an asterisk autocannon. 32 plus 8 is 40. So that's still 5 to 1. Add 1 to the die roll.
2.
Hey! Finally managed to destroy something. Boom. Cool. And now the only thing left in there is a truck section. Any other direct fire?
Yep, the truck. Not the truck. The tank will fire into where the artillery landed.
Okay.
See if he can pick off the BMP.
Alright, cool. Yeah, now that is a 32 A-class within 2 hexes. That does double. Again, right tool for the right job. 64 versus 6. 10 to 1 odds and 1 to the die roll. Don't bother picking up the piece of plastic. That's smoked. You literally would have to roll a 9 on a d6. A 9 on a d6 would kill him. I know your dice are bad, Damon. They're not that bad.
I don't know, I've got extra dimensional dice.
Yes, sometimes it feels like it. Although Damon, Rasmus has thrown a couple bricks just now, too. I was expecting that fullback to at least get chased off. You need a 1 to shoot him down. Not many aircraft get shot down in the Ukraine to ground fire, but when they do, they make a big deal about it, so we know exactly where they were. In like 2 weeks of fighting, I think historically we have the Ukrainians lost a 24 and an Mi-8, and the Russians lost like 134 and a 25 or something like that. So like 4 aircraft in like a couple weeks of fighting. So in this battle that takes place over the course of like an hour, you might knock down 1. Okay, so any other direct fire, or are we going on to movement?
I don't think anything else has got line of sight, have they?
Your SA...
The anti-air, yes.
Yeah.
The anti-air against the chopper.
The one guy that's not dispersed in that hex. Oh, you want to throw SAMs at people. Okay, 24-point SAM. I believe it's an SA-10. Yeah, SA-13, sorry. He cooks a missile off at this guy who we said had to be very high in order to shoot over these buildings into that tank. Off goes the missiles. 24 versus 16 with 1 to 1 odds.
6.
No effect.
You can do that as well.
Yeah, everyone's throwing bricks. Nice.
I'm that good.
There you go.
I don't think I've got anything else that's got line of sight, have I?
Okay, so just to wrap up this little piece of recording here, do we want to resolve this close assault on this truck, or did you want to do something else with it?
Do I need to close assault it, or can I just say that he's dead?
Even without an assault, just machine gunning him in there, because again, we're not shooting the tanks. It is 2 7s is 14 versus 2. That's 7 to 1. Add 1 to the die roll for Woods. So basically, you need a 7 to kill. You need a 6 to kill, because again, now you're shooting into buildings, and you can't roll higher than 6. So technically, that's not even a close assault. That's just direct fire. You can't subject the same unit to multiple direct fire attacks, but separate units you can. And for direct fire, you don't have to attack the whole hex. Well, it does make a slight difference, because now it's destroyed in direct fire phase. The infantry can't use split move and fire, but now the vehicles can move through that hex. Whereas technically, if you had a close assault them, that takes place at the end of the turn, nobody can move through that hex. So it actually is borderline important. Plus, we have people on Facebook and other groups who play this stuff in their sleep. Trust me, when you make a rules mistake, they will call you out on it. So, good call, or good question, Rasmus. Those guys were destroyed in the direct fire phase, which means we are not violating the turn sequence. Sweet. So there you have it so far, folks. Although this game remains far from decided, hopefully you can already see some of the elements I was trying to work into the scenario design. The Russians, for example, have a nearly 3-to-1 superiority in armor, and if the Ukrainians let the Russians make this into a tank duel, it's over. Conversely, if the Russians don't make a concerted, determined drive toward their objectives, thus making the most of their power and mass, well, the Ukrainians are going to make the most of their advantages of defensive urban terrain, concealed ambush positions, anti-tank guided weapons, and drones to shoot the Russians into, well, columns of charred wreckage. Now, of course, this is exactly what happened in the field, but the difference is, although Damon is admittedly contending with a number of deliberately designed disadvantages in things like morale and doctrine and equipment, he isn't actually required to play his pieces in a haphazard or half-hearted manner. In other words, what might have happened if the Russians actually had one good colonel in there somewhere? Thus, this game is going to go almost by default at least a little better for the Russians than we saw historically. Now, whether or not this is going to be enough to give Damon the game, we're going to have to come back next week for the conclusion of our modern Panzer Leader games at the Battle of Makariv. And that's where we're going to leave it for now, folks. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Please remember to hit that notification bell. Also, please consider joining the Sitrep Podcast Discord. There's an auto-accept invitation link to our Discord in the description of this video. Join our community, see what everybody's up to, and best of all, show us what's happening on your hobby table. But for now, this is Risky Jim with the Sitrep Podcast. We are rounds complete for another episode, and as always, Tango Mike for watching.